Rouge regime in Cambodia. When she was a year old, her family immigrated to Australia. Liev makes her current home in New Zealand. Our opening words today are from her poem titled Wallflower. Shrinking in a corner, pressed into the wall. Do they know I'm present? Am I here at all? Is there a written rule book that tells you how to be, all the right things to talk about, that everyone has but me? Slowly I am withering, a flower deprived of sun, longing to belong to somewhere or someone.
Picks up the rice in a church where a wedding has been. Lives in a dream, waits at the window, wearing the face that she keeps in a jar by the door. Who is it for? All the lonely people. Where do they all come from? All the lonely people. Where do they all belong? Father Mackenzie, writing the words of a sermon that no one will hear. No one comes near, look at him working, donning his socks in the night when there's nobody there. What does he care? All the lonely people, where do they all come from? All the lonely people, where do they all belong? I look at all the lonely people. I look at all the lonely people. Eleanor Rigby died in the church and was buried along with her name. Nobody came. Father Mackenzie wiping the dirt from his hand as he walks from the grave. No one was saved. All the lonely people, where do they all come from? All the lonely people, where do they all belong?
Good morning. Welcome to Minnesota Valley Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. My name is Carla Reese. I serve as the secretary for the Board of Trustees. Our speaker today is Patrick Westcott. Member here, we also have Karen Olson helping with music, and Heather Warwick from SARG, that is Social Action and Racial Justice Committee, introducing the offering, and Richard Duffin with aid from my kiddo, Ian Reese, on tech. We joined together this morning on these unceded homelands of the Dakota and Anishinaabe people to ground ourselves in the spirit of community and to receive and offer our own gifts of love to one another and to the broad web of life that we are all woven into. If you are here for the first time, we invite you to fill out a form down at the entry-level welcome table. If you are with us online, there will be a link in the comment or chat sections that you can fill out and let us know a little bit more about yourself and how we can make you feel more at home. Please join me in the words for lighting the chalice from Sputnik Sweetheart by Haruki Murakami. Why do
We're going to be singing a hymn, and we'd like you to join us. We're going to song lead. It's going to be on the screen, and it's number 15 in the hymnal, The Lone Wild Bird. So we're going to watch the video. The video will play through the song once. The two musicians, a pianist and a violinist, will play. Then we will sing the first verse. The musicians will once again go through the entire song, and then we will sing the second verse. You may wish to stand when we sing.
Each week, we make space to share our joys and concerns. If you are here in person, please raise your hand and an usher will bring you a microphone. If you are online, you may share in the chat or comments section and it will be read out loud. Does anyone have any joys or concerns to share? Andrea?
I'm Mary Waters. I have joy and concern. I'm happy to tell you that Marge, who had some back surgery last week, is recuperating, but she just didn't feel up to come in today. And on Thursday, actually, I'm having back surgery, and I won't be here for a while, I think. So I appreciate your extra energy for me. And my other joy sorrow is that about 8 months ago, my really dearest friend, Dawn, died of a pulmonary embolism. And she was young, she was like 55. And her thing is coming up, her celebration of life, and I can't go to it, and I feel bad about that. Of course, it's all about her, it's not about me, but I did find a friend who agreed to read something that I wrote for her, so I will have some presents there, and that's about it.
Hi, I'm Addie. This afternoon, I get to have one of my best friends over, so I'm excited for that.
Nothing like a best friend.
Hi, I'm Laura.
concern is I'm kind of struggling with mental illness and loneliness, but hopefully coming here will help. I did sign up for social hours, so I brought cookies, and hopefully some people will stay after. So I don't know if we'll just stay up here or, okay, yeah, we'll just stay up in this area.
I made coffee, so it'll be just directly back there.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Judy, and I know Greg is in charge of the weather reports, but my great concern and sadness is the climate, and especially the heat in my former part of the planet, the Southwest here. My sister lives in Scottsdale, Arizona, and they're on day 24 of this brutal 110 plus heat wave. El Nino, I understand, is going to be sticking around for a while, and it's not just in the US, it's all over the world that we're seeing the consequences of the climate disaster. So, very sad about that, very concerned.
Do we have any online comments? Nope. All right. Anyone else? We will now take a moment to hold in our hearts all the joys and concerns that have been shared, as well as those that remain unspoken. Please join Patrick in the musical response. And Karen.
What are the words? And we believe in life and in the strength of love, and we have found a need to be together. We have our hearts to give, we have our thoughts to receive, and we believe that sharing is an answer.
Up next is a story for all ages that I was very happy to see because it is from a book by, not going to remember her name, Tracy Moroney. And some of you who are parents of a certain age may remember reading some of these books to your kids. They're great books about how to handle big feelings.
When I'm feeling lonely, I feel like I am all by myself in the world and nobody loves me. When I'm feeling lonely, it seems like everyone is having fun except me. Feeling lonely can make you think there is no one else like you. Some things that make me feel lonely are when I look or feel different from other people, or when I need help and everyone just seems too busy, or when I find it hard to talk about how I feel even if there are lots of people around. Everyone has moments when they feel lonely or different, or that they don't fit in. When I'm feeling lonely, I try to remember that there are hundreds and thousands of people around the world who feel the same way. Or I call my best friend Scarlett, who reminds me of all the things we like to do that are the same. Feeling lonely doesn't have to be scary. It can give me time to listen to my own feelings and work things out by myself. and that makes me feel really good. Sometimes the things that make me feel different.
Sometimes the things that make me feel different are the things that my friends and family really love about me. Let's see. Where am I? Oh, it is time for our offering space. I'm sorry? We're going to find out. Right.
I loved that story. I'm using the offering time to update you guys about the family from the Ukraine. So this is their arrival picture. I'm sorry if you've already seen it, but this is Polina, and this is Svetlana. This is Alexander, but he prefers to go by Sasha. And this is Jean. And she is the host. She's providing the host house. So this is her house in the background over by Minnehaha Falls. And this is the night that they landed, and this is Kat and Matt. They are from FUS, and so is Jean. So there's the update on the day they landed. You can turn it. This is the day that we went to visit, and we took them to Minnehaha Falls on an outing. You can see that Jean has a sculpture in her front yard, and she's hung a Ukrainian flag from it as a welcome. This is Polina's bedroom. My kids worked hard on getting it prepared for her, and this is the first time she's had her own bedroom. So she's very excited, and she calls it her safe space, which I really love. This is Polina's birthday party the Sunday after they arrived. She turned 8. And this is at Kat and Matt's house in Inver Grove Heights. And she got presents, and she was very, very appreciative, especially, and I don't have a picture with me, I don't know why, but she got a bike. And so she doesn't know how to ride a bike, so that's what she's busy working on right now, is riding her bike, learning how to ride a bike, and her dad is helping her with that. There's Addie and Polina. Matt and Kat had a trampoline in the backyard, so they spent a big part of their time just bouncing on the trampoline and having a good time. This is the family at Minnehaha Falls. This was last Friday, so the family has gone 2 Fridays in a row, and they'll be going this next Friday to the Ukrainian Center. And each week, an organization prepares a presentation. And this last week, it was on recreation and leisure. Next week, it's going to be on safety. And so that's what they're doing here. And Polina and Addie are working on making thank yous to the presenters and the translator, because they have a Ukrainian translator who translates the presentation into Ukrainian. And then Judy and Kathy, right? Judy and Barb, thank you. Judy and Barb took the family to the zoo, and this is a picture of Svetlana with the gorilla. So I just wanted to do one more quick update before I forget. They've been here for just a little over a week, right? And we've accomplished as a team, the family and the team has accomplished a lot. We've completed their I-94. Their social security numbers are in process, thanks to Jean. Fran got Svetlana and Sasha registered at Open Door in South Minneapolis for English classes. And she's begun to tutor Polina, and that's one thing we are asking the congregation for help with. You don't need any experience. Fran will set you up and tell you kind of what we need to do, but we'd like to get her rolling on practicing English before she starts school. Fran's in the back. Our Fran. Yes, that was a good question. So this is our Fran, and Fran is by training an EL teacher, but you don't have to have any training to work with Paulina, and you can talk to Fran about it.
Yeah, anybody's interested, or if you know somebody that you think he's going to enter third grade, and so we have a lot of work to do in 6 weeks. Yeah. He has a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
So do we.
Yes.
So it's kind of a commitment you're going to make to me if you. I don't want to make it look like, oh, this is going to be fun, and you're just going to play for 4 hours, because that's not what I do. So if you're interested, please talk to me, and that you think would be interested, I think.
And I will say from experience, she's very bright and she's very well behaved. So it's not torture either. She's a joy to be around. Let's see. Svetlana has applied for a food service job at the Veterans Home, which is walking distance from Jean's house. The family has attended 2 training sessions at the Ukrainian Center, and next Friday, Kelly from Minnesota Valley UU will be taking the family. Paulina is registered for school and is going to, on Monday, get an assessment in English. The family has grocery shopped twice. They've attended the zoo. And I know they have a plan to attend, and I'm not sure who with, the Wizard of Oz at Egan High School. That's another social outing they have on the agenda. And I just want to say, wow, that's a lot in a little over a week, and I really, really thank you. I thank you for the donations, because that has helped a lot buy food and prepare the house, and there'll be lots more use of that money, and we're going to continue gathering money through the offering today to go through the family and all summer. The offering all summer is going to go to the family. What still needs to be done? We need to work on getting the medical insurance, permanent housing, continue working with jobs, helping Paulina learn English, and then continued with the donations for the family as they move into the harder phase of finding permanent housing and perhaps a car. Also, I forgot to mention thanks to Barb Becker for donating a bike to Sasha. The dad is getting a bike from Sasha, or Sasha is getting a bike from Barb. So thank you so much, and continue to give and continue to be supportive of the family and the people who are supporting the family. It's good work.
This was written by Hank Williams in 1949. He was the tender age of 26. Sadly, he only lived 3 more years, died very young at age 29. I've never seen
None of our private worlds is big enough for us to live a wholesome life in. We need the wider world of joy and wonder, of purpose and venture, of toil and tears. What are we, any of us, but strangers and sojourners forlornly wandering through the nighttime until we draw together and find the meaning of our lives in one another, dissolving our fears in each other's courage, making music together and lighting torches to guide us through the dark. We belong together. Love is what we need, to love and be loved. Let our hearts be open, and what we would receive from others, let us give, for what is given still remains to bless the giver, when the gift is love. And those are words from Reverend A. Powell Davies. Good morning. Loneliness, as Mother Teresa stated, is the most terrible poverty. Why do I speak of loneliness? I'm here today because I sought solace in my personal loneliness. My partner passed away 2 years ago on July 19, 2021. Our relationship lasted close to 35 years, and with that, a pattern of living was formed. With his death came the abrupt realization that I could simply give up and continue to live out my existence in Florida, or reinvent myself back where I grew up. Joining Minnesota Valley Unitarian Universalist Fellowship is part of my journey to redefine myself. Reviewing the principles of Unitarian Universalism, the fourth principle resonates most firmly for me. In a free and responsible search for truth and meaning, I need to work diligently to avoid isolation and self-centeredness. By nature, I am shy and introverted. My professional life, as an educator, forced me to create a public persona that was seemingly extroverted and optimistic. So now that I live alone with my 2 fox terriers, I need to confront my urge to withdraw. When Reverend Laura requested guest speakers this summer, I decided that I could use the occasion to investigate loneliness. To begin my investigation, I needed a definition of loneliness, not from Webster's, but from the scientific world. I looked for an expert's definition. Dr. Stephanie Ketchapo, a professor of psychiatry and behavioral neuroscience at the University of Chicago's Pritzker School of Medicine, defines loneliness as, and I quote, a universal condition that makes a person irritable, self-centered, depressed, end quote. Dr. John Ketchapo, the late husband of Stephanie, and they happened to meet at a neuroscience conference in Shanghai, began research on social connection in the early 1990s at Ohio State University. He made a study of loneliness a scientific endeavor. He writes with co-author William Patrick, in Loneliness, Human Nature, and the Need for Social Connection, that as we developed from early man, and I quote, into humans, and as troops became tribes and cultures became kingdoms, the pain of banishment remained the most severe punishment, short of torture or death, imposed by kings and potentates. It is no accident that even today in modern correctional institutions, the penalty of last resort is solitary confinement, end quote. He goes on to write, and I quote, most neuroscientists now agree that over a period of tens of thousands of years, it was the need to send and receive, interpret and relay increasingly complex social cues that drove the expansion of and greater interconnectedness within the cortical mantle of the human brain. In other words, it was the need to deal with other people that in large part made us who we are today. Like hunger and thirst, the need for social connectedness is essential to our well-being. I'm sure everyone here today can feel loneliness occasionally, perhaps by saying the wrong thing at an inappropriate time or forgetting a friend's request that brings about feelings of anxiety and self-protective behavior. Some of us may be lonelier longer and more frequently. As our Surgeon General, Dr. Vivek Murthy writes, and I quote again, at any moment about 1 out of every 2 Americans is experiencing measurable levels of loneliness. This includes introverts and extroverts, rich and poor, and younger and older Americans. Sometimes loneliness is set off by the loss of a loved one or a job, a move to a new city perhaps, or health or financial difficulties, or a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic. Literature abounds with examples of social unhappiness and loneliness, often as a theme. In his research, Loneliness in Later Life, Hamilton Gibson has us consider Daniel Defoe's Robinson Crusoe, which might be considered a philosophical attempt to discuss the loneliness of humankind, or Swift's Gulliver's Travel, who comes to the pessimistic realization that all human relationships are flawed and unsatisfactory. These are examples of existential loneliness. Two great works of fiction that I've read and consider among my favorites: George Eliot Silas Marner, the story of a weaver falsely accused of stealing from his congregation, and Edith Wharton's Ethan Frome, who is imprisoned by society's rules, are fully realized characterizations of loneliness. None of this is to say that the state of aloneness is perceived or experienced as negative. I would imagine at some point in time, maybe more often than not, we have all asked for time for me. Can you imagine the artist, writer, or researcher not working in solitude, or one in prayer and meditation? I think of all the great poets who cherish their solitude, often finding solace in nature. Solitude can be of great benefit to us mentally and physically. Perhaps you define loneliness and depression in the same breath, but are they the same? Cacioppo and Patrick write of the differences, and I quote, "Loneliness, like hunger, is a warning to do something to alter an uncomfortable and possibly dangerous condition. Depression makes us apathetic, whereas loneliness urges us to move forward. Depression holds us back," end quote. Emotional loneliness often stems from being alone, but not wanting to be alone. But it is also driven by a discrepancy between how you perceive your relationships versus what you want or expect them to be. That disconnect is why you can be surrounded by family during the holidays and still feel like an outsider. So if the holidays are a time of joy and merriment, why am I so dissatisfied? One can be in a social setting, a party for example, but find it impossible to find a connection with another. Madame Bovary, Flaubert's famous character, whose loneliness and frustration with her bourgeois existence leads to self-destructive behavior, comes to mind, or Janis Joplin's words, "I just made love to 25,000 people, but I'm going home alone." Psychological science is only beginning to understand which factors influence whether someone frequently feels lonely or not. A study published in 2020 in the scientific journal Personality and Individual Differences made an important step towards getting at a better understanding of individual differences in loneliness. In this study, scientists analyzed the largest group of volunteers for a study of loneliness. Participants took part in a BBC loneliness experiment, an online survey launched on BBC Radio and BBC World Service. Overall, more than 46,000 volunteers between the ages of 16 and 99 contributed to the study. The volunteers came from 237 different countries, making this the most diverse study of loneliness research so far. The volunteers filled out an online questionnaire indicating how often intensely they experienced loneliness. They also answered other questions about themselves, such as their age and gender. The volunteers also provided information about their employment and relationship status. 3 findings stood out. The first is age affects loneliness. And what do you think the finding might have been? Age affects loneliness.
Younger people actually experience more loneliness?
Correct, Greg. So the popular assumption is that older people are lonelier. However, the oldest participants reported less bouts of loneliness than younger people. In general, middle-aged people were lonelier than older people, and young people were lonelier than middle-aged people. The second finding was gender affects loneliness. And what do you think the finding is here?
Men more lonely.
Again, right, Greg. You're on top of it. Again, what do you think was the finding? Well, the finding was men of all ages reported more frequent loneliness than women, but the gender difference was smaller for older people. And third, society affects loneliness. This is the finding I found the most interesting. Maybe it shouldn't be surprising. People who lived in individualistic societies like our own, in which individual success is an important life goal, where private space and privacy are a source of pride, reported more frequent loneliness than people living in more collectivistic societies, like Sweden, in which the needs and goals of a larger group, such as the family, are more important than individual success.
Patrick,
Yes,
could you slow down just a
sure, it's my nervousness.
little? You're among friends.
Okay. Phew. As Dr. Murthy, our Surgeon General, points out, when people are socially disconnected, their risk of anxiety and depression increases, end quote. Researchers also found increases in the risk of heart disease, dementia, and stroke. To put it bluntly, the increased risk of premature death associated with social disconnection is comparable to smoking daily. Cigna Group research found that race, age, gender, and income play a role in how we experience loneliness. Among their findings, people from underrepresented racial groups are more likely to be lonely. People with lower incomes are lonelier than people with higher incomes. As noted before, young adults are twice as likely to be lonely than seniors. More than twice as many younger adults as older adults experience feeling left out. Americans with mental health issues are more than twice as likely to be lonely than those with strong mental health. The research goes on to point the cause to employee productivity, job dissatisfaction, and poor health. So if loneliness is a universal emotion, why do so many of us do everything in our power to avoid discussing this normal emotion? How can we help ourselves when we feel ongoing loneliness? The Surgeon General proposed a framework for a national strategy to advance social connection. One of the 6 pillars is to build a culture of connection. Of course, to build connection, one needs time. Dr. Natalie Kerr, a social psychologist and professor at James Madison University, offers practical advice for those of us who find there are too many things to do in a day and simply not enough time to do them, what is referred to as time poverty. Last week, Reverend Laura spoke about the need for rest. Not rest so we can therefore produce more, but rest for contemplation, for creativity, for mindfulness. Dr. Kerr suggests 3 strategies. 1, buy time. For example, outsource a disliked chore. 2, give time away, perhaps by volunteering or providing social support for a friend. 3, do less by setting more boundaries at work or spending less on material things. In a recent New York Times article, journalists Cummins and Zaleski wrote that neuroscientists have discovered that the brain can both trigger someone to seek social connection, but can also, and I quote, under different circumstances, turn one defensive and vigilant, more apt to hunker down instead of reach out. Under this rubric, loneliness isn't simply a symptom of societal failure to foster deep relationships, but rather a wariness that takes root, steadily snowballs, and reshapes the brain, end quote. Despite the many ways to connect online, Americans report having fewer friends than they did decades ago. Our Surgeon General offers concrete suggestions to confront one's loneliness. One technique is to take 15 minutes each day to contact a friend or a relative. You can put it on your to-do list so that it remains a priority. Dr. Murthy advises one to pick up the phone and talk. He states, if you're in the middle of something, say, hey, it's really good to hear your voice, and then find another time to talk. Friendships need to be nourished. Texting and Facebook postings are not a replacement for in-person time with the important people in our lives. As Dr. Murthy states, and I quote, over thousands of years, we evolved to not only understand the content of what someone was saying, but also to respond to the tone of their voice, to read their body language, and to experience their presence. And if we lose a lot of that when we are communicating a lot electronically, that also means choosing not to take part in online chatter that amplifies judgment and hate instead of understanding. As mentioned earlier, you can consider donating your time to an organization in your community or offering to help your family, coworkers, or friends. Volunteering is one of the best, most certain ways we can find a purpose and meaning in our lives, said Val Walker, the author of 400 Friends and No One to Call, Breaking Through Isolation and Building Community. In a study of 10,000 volunteers in Britain, about 2/3 agreed that their volunteering had helped them feel less isolated, particularly those ages 18 to 34. AARP Foundation Experience Corps, an intergenerational tutoring program, found numerous benefits to volunteering. More than 85% of volunteers felt that their lives had improved because of their involvement with the program, and 98% reported that the program helped them stay physically and mentally active. As Brad Stolberg, author of The Practice of Groundedness, writes, and I quote, "Humans need one another. We are stronger and more robust when enmeshed with others in community. But in our age of autonomy, efficiency, boundaries, and self-care, we often deprioritize, if not overlook altogether, the wellspring of strength and meaning that comes from obligation." End quote. Of course, for people to really know us, we need to show up consistently. Over time, what starts out as an obligation becomes less about what we have to do and more about what we want to do. Loneliness and isolation affect all of us. Social disconnection is linked to reduced productivity in the workplace, worse performance in school, and weakened civic engagement. When we are less invested in one another, we are more susceptible to the us against them mentality and less able to face the challenges that we can't solve alone, such as climate change or gun violence. Dr. Stephanie Cacioppo is now promoting the acronym GRACE, G-R-A-C-E, which stands for gratitude, reciprocity, altruism, choice, and enjoyment. So be grateful for what you have, request and provide help to others, and find time for fun. The one word, of course, that is difficult is choice. One can choose to be lonely or not. Of course, this takes work, but experts believe with practice, one can work oneself out of loneliness. There is a vast and growing body of literature on loneliness, and I've only tapped the surface. I hope my research has provided some enlightenment on loneliness. I'd like to end with a poem by Maya Angelou entitled Touched by an Angel. We, unaccustomed to courage, exiles from delight, live coiled in shells of loneliness until love leaves its high holy temple and comes into our sight to liberate us into life. Love arrives, and in its train come ecstasies, old memories of pleasure, ancient histories of pain. Yet if we are bold, love strikes away the chains of fear from our souls. We are weaned from our timidity in the flush of love's light and dare be brave, and suddenly we see that love costs all we are and will ever be, yet it is only love which sets us free. Thank you.
Grace, I'm going to have to remember that. And you heard the man. If you're looking for a way to be altruistic and share your gifts and talents, we are always happy to find ways to put your gifts to good use here at the fellowship. Amen. We have music by Patrick and Karen. It says here, comfort me. Yes.
Folks, it's in the turquoise book, it's 102, 1002, and it's on the screen also. We sang it last week, but Reverend Laura suggested this for this service, so we're going to do it again. And you can stand if you want to.
Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Sing with me, sing with me, sing with me, oh my soul. Sing with me, sing with me, sing with me, oh my soul. Speak for me, speak for me, speak for me, oh my soul. Speak for me, speak for me, speak for me, oh my soul. Dance with me, dance with me, dance with me, oh my soul. Dance with me, dance with me, dance with me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul.
Please join me in the words for extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this flame until we are together again. Our closing words today are by Harold E. Babcock. And now may we go forth in the certainty of faith, in the knowledge of love, and in the vision of hope. And in our going, may we be blessed with all good things on this day and forevermore. Amen. Amen. Now, I believe we have one more song. Richard? Yes. House is not a home.